I want to go through the different measures we have taken into the building and that are replicable so we can take over for other buildings. So first, it's important, and we have heard it already many times these days, that ventilation is very important. So it's very important that you have a hygienic ventilation system to contribute to good indoor air quality in the house. I put different things together which are important for the replicability, and in blue is what we have implemented in Renovactive. So we didn't do everything in Renovactive, but most of it we did. So the blue ones is for Renovactive. So we have a demand-controlled ventilation system. Because it's a natural ventilation system, it's important for the thermal comfort that it's demand-controlled. And anyhow, it's important for the energy consumption that any system is demand-controlled. We have no heat recovery, but actually it's recommended to have a good thermal comfort with a good indoor air quality that you have heat recovery. Very important is that the components are accessible for good maintenance. And there's a little contradiction because in social housing companies, it's in a way important that you cannot see the system, because if they see the system, then it's easy to tape it and to close it off. But when you don't see the system, what we have tried to do here in the house, then they don't know that it is there, and they won't clean it because they don't know that the system is there. So that's a bit, that's a point of attention to take into account by developing new systems. It should be well designed to avoid noise and to avoid draft. We have here in the living room, with the natural ventilation system, there is one convector so that the air is heated up in the winter, so that there are no draft complaints when they are looking television in the house. But we didn't do it in the other rooms, of course, again for cost cutting for the social housing budget. But there are complaints in the sleeping room that it's too cold there as well. It's important that there is a commissioning to detect initial technical failures and quality of workmanship. We don't know how it happened, but the first winter we discovered that half of the supply vents were closed. And because we have a hybrid ventilation system, we didn't really see it immediately because indoor air quality was still good. But still, a commissioning would have been good to see that everything is working well. And I heard from Renson, they are now in their health box collecting all the data so they can detect very early if something is going wrong with the system or not. And I think it's important because Renson told me they have a lot of problems with that because the contractors are it's very cost cutting. They have to work very hard in very small time, so actually the quality of their work is not always very good. So if there is somebody who is looking at the data and can see if their system is working properly or not, maybe that's a good way to solve that problem. And so here in Renovactive we have natural supply vents with mechanical ventilation extraction for the hygienic ventilation system. Then we have natural peak ventilation to when there is too much occupancy in the house, that you can that you also can have a good indoor air quality with a good family party. We have seen here in this house that we only had twice that situation, that there were so many people that the hygienic ventilation system was not supportive enough. So here it was rather a small problem, but in social housing companies, sometimes they are more occupied than they are designed for, and then a natural peak ventilation system can make it more robust. The natural peak ventilation is important. I think that it's also automatically controlled because we see that the people, they are not really opening the windows themselves. And we've seen from other studies that mostly people interact too late. When it's already too hot, they open the windows and you can have a better comfort if you interact a little bit earlier. We try to have a lot of cross and stack ventilation. So cross ventilation is that if you have, like in the attic, you have windows on both sides of the roof, so you have a better ventilation possibility. And we also have the stack effect because we have the staircase here, the window at the top, so the hot air is released and evacuated on top of it. It's important for the natural peak ventilation that the automatic control system is considering CO2 level. outdoor temperature, indoor temperature, and rain. And the family told us that it would also be interesting to have a control that takes into account the wind speed to avoid slamming doors. So that was not integrated in our system, but they told us that it should be nice to have that as well. And because of the solar shading, we have a wind speed measurement equipment, so it could be easily interacted. And in Renovactive, we do the natural ventilation system by pivoting windows on top of the windows. So there is no burglary risk, and they can easily open their own windows without the top window that is automatically controlled. We have exterior solar shading. We did it in Renovactive on all facades except of the northeast facade. But we have seen, I explained earlier, that the solar shading on all roof windows is very important. And something that the family, we took into account. So if you have a solar shading system and you have natural ventilation, then the solar shading system can block the natural ventilation system. Here in the house, we really took care that there are some distances between the solar shading and the construction so that there is still enough of ventilation. But there are solar shading systems that don't allow the ventilation, so it's important to take into consideration. For the monitoring, we use different equipment. We use NetAtmo, Raspberry Pis, and Emon Pis for the energy consumption. Like in every room, you see there our Raspberry Pi set up. We measure how far is the door open or closed. And there is a temperature sensor inside, relative humidity, CO2 sensor, and the light. For the electricity, the water and the gas, we had to rely on the users that can then read the consumptions and gave us true from time to time. So our main conclusions for the replicability is actually that the overall project shows a good robustness. I think for comfort and indoor air quality, it was all very good. The quality parameters are met. The automatic control system have added some robustness, because if the automatic control system wouldn't have been there, I'm quite sure that the solar shading system would only be used for the burglary protection, that they wouldn't have used it in another way, and that they wouldn't have opened the windows as much as it was required. We've learned that if you want a smart control system, that it's very important that the people can have define their own priority settings, and that it's for everybody different. I think this is the most important part. So actually, we think for the social housings, it's important that there is an automatic control system, because we see that the people who live in there, most of them, they don't close the window, they don't close the solar shading system, and they don't open and close the windows. But that has also an investment cost with it, so it's not very easy to integrate into the social housing. But we think it's necessary to have some robust design. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Something to add?
So, yeah, I haven't said a thing. So, I thought use the opportunity. To me, it was quite interesting with this project, because it was another example how a building can improve the dwellers. We call it housing well-being. It's a concept we developed together with VELUX and another research project, and it's a broader perspective on health. You can say, like, it's not only, the house didn't only affect their, what we discussed today, cardio system, or like decrease the amount of sick building syndromes of this family, but also, for example, increase their feeling of being at home and their social interactions within the family. And my point would be talking about healthy buildings, to have in mind that there's more than just these physical parameters of healthy air and a lot of daylight, which are very important. There's no question about it. but that when we build houses, we had several speakers today were talking about loneliness and these aspects. And from my research, and this was another good example, we see houses or can improve the life of their dwellers on certain aspects. And health is, to see health as a broader concept. And one very important thing as well is for feeling home and is the opportunity to interact with the building and to customize the building to your personal needs and to individualize the building. And so we should be careful not seeing the dweller as an object to fit to our technical system, but to give him the opportunity or her the opportunity to fulfill its needs.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask for you to hold your questions until we have the panel up, if that's okay with everybody. I know it's warm in here and you want to breathe some fresh air, so we're looking forward to that. We will try and at the last end get everybody participating together. I want to say thank you again, especially this last comment, idea that for replicability that we need not only the concept to be replicated, but that also the experience for people should be replicable as well. So thank you guys so much. If you can give another round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.